Cookstabe at Cookby, Cookstabe Lily, Cookstabe and Aquint Low Shukshnuka, Cookby Knut Yahan Squash Cluckdenmuch. With these words, I've given thanks to the Creator for this day, and I, of course, thanked Lily and all the persons behind organizing the event. And I've also said hello and thank you all for participating in this event. And then, of course, introduced myself as Chief Patrick Michell of the Kanaka Bar Band. The Creator gave us the gift of life and the power of choice, and I really appreciate everybody's time today. And for that, again, I thank you. I'd like to give acknowledgement to the land that we all are on. Today, we exist in a country called Canada, and somewhere out there, we're in a province. I'm in British Columbia, but we're also all situated on some nation lands and some communities' area of focus. So I'd like to ask each and every one of you, every chance you get, to thank, or at least think about the nation lands that you are on, and give thanks when you participate in conferences. And for those who can, please just share when you are in an event. Please share an acknowledgement for the land and resources you're on. My nation lands are shown in this slide in red, and the area that over which my community Cluckden is known as the crossing place is shown in a smaller polygon area, which we like to affectionately call the purple polygon area. This is my nation. This is my land. A big problem, of course, for British Columbia and Canada is stuff like shared territory, overlap, joint jurisdictions. And it's really important that we work together to create certainty for British Columbians, Canadians, given in mind that climate change is coming. I also want to take a moment to start off right off the bat. There's a lot of people suffering. There's a lot of people dying. And I'm not going to minimize, nor am I going to exaggerate what's going on. We will recover from the pandemic, but we will not recover from climate change. Climate change's impacts that are coming are permanent and they're somewhat irreversible. When I talk about irreversibility, it will take us years to come to some form of norm, but a pandemic will bring us, we will be able to come back, but what will we come back to? You've all heard the stories about supply chain shortages. You've all heard the stories about the cost of a 2x4. That's a pandemic. Well, what happens if this temporary blimp becomes permanent? Are you ready for that? As part of my presentation, I'm not going to go through this list, and as Liddy pointed out, it will be shared afterwards. You need to ask yourself these questions in column 1 and put your answer in. Regardless of who you are and where you live, ask yourself these questions. There's a whole whack of them, right? Climate change and the impacts that are coming, they're complex, they're comprehensive, they're scary. But if you have awareness, you'll be okay, trust me. Look, there's another page of them. I've left off stuff like self-determination, all that sort of stuff, and they're spattered throughout. So to create this incredible vocabulary, give yourself awareness, because with awareness, you can come up with a plan. All right, so now let's go. So one of the sayings and teachings that Kanaka Bar starts off, and it's really interesting because people call them catchphrases. Well, the idea behind it is to transfer as much knowledge in the shortest period of time. So let's use an expression. What you do to the land or allow others to do, you do to yourself. I think there's a truth or truism to that you all know this, right? My nation has land, which we call tabu, and it produces all these item things on the left. And as a result of the land, we have resources, right? Which generate, again, all these benefits. And it's all interlinked. Look at the circle: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. It's all linked. So there's this holistic approach. That's why it's so complex. That's why it's so comprehensive. This slide is only a snippet of what we experience here at Kanaka Bar. Okay. Now here's another statement. 2 days ago, they found a 1943 Ford Mercury hood
3 kids are over the bank, cleaning the bank. Not the federal government, not the provincial government, not the people who threw it over, right? We are. And if we are cleaning up our land, are we cleaning up ourselves? See, it's one of those deep thoughts by Jack Handy, for Pete's sake. It's things that make you go, right? Think about it. We clean up the land and resources because we can today. And for a period of time, we could not. So when we look at this, land and resource uses within my nation, my traditional territory, was never unfettered. We had an ask protocol system. Ask before you help yourself. You want to hunt here? Ask. You want to fish here? Ask. You want to gather here? Ask. You want to live here? Ask. Why? Because somebody had to determine whether or not the land and resource could handle the use. Because we managed the land and resources for 8,000 years for our future generations. Having said that, in 1808, somebody came along and that poor guy was lost. His name was Simon Fraser, working for the French Northwest Company. So 213 years ago, some guy shows up and he says, "Who are you?" And he said, "Well, we're the Nlaka'pamux." Well, he couldn't say it. He couldn't spell it. So he wrote down Hacmugh, which roughly sounds like hackmah or blowing a lung oyster, right? It's the sound you make when you're blowing a loogie. So what he did was, because he couldn't say or pronounce our nation name, he renamed us the Couteau tribe. And for those people who speak French, it means night, people of the night. So from 1808 to 1857, there was a sort of symbiotic relationship that developed. We were supporting the explorers, we were supporting the visionaries, but then somewhere along the way, something called gold was found. You know what happens when Nlaka'pamux people decapitate an American gold miner and throw him in the river? They're like Hydra. They came back. So we wound up fighting a protracted war in 1858, and then Governor Douglas declared the colony on August 23rd during the war. So what we have here is, you look at the chronology, and if you see what I'm saying here, look where it ends though. And I'm sorry, there's something in my way here. I'm going to move this over here. So it's BC is celebrating its 150th year since Confederation. So let's put it this way. We've been a province for 150 years and we're facing a global existential crisis. So whose government's model, whose land and resource decision making makes more sense? The colonial one, the new settler government one, or perhaps we should go back to looking at how the Indigenous people manage the land and resources and themselves. There has to be room, there has to be space for that conversation, because we don't have a lot of time left. On the bottom left-hand corner, there is a document that I wrote in 2010 that kind of summarizes yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And it's very clear, there are 4 dots there. Memory, loss, and sorrow, ... Because tomorrow is hope and opportunity for all if we can collectively work together to do amazing things. So you'll find throughout my presentation, there are going to be little snippets and links. I can't tell it all to you. Memory, loss, and sorrow, I think, is 10 or 12 pages, a single space, black and white. I wrote it in 1 hour because it's what I know. But I want to point out here in 1967, the Lament for Confederation is written up. For those people who have never heard of it or seen it, please find it on our webpage. It's Chief Dan George's words that he expressed live to 32,000 people, and it's not a gooder. But when you download it from my website, you'll see, is this a question of despair, or is this a story of despair or of optimism? Because even Chief Dan George in 1967 knew that there was a future for us collectively. I'm not going to repeat. I recently did a presentation on April 27th to the engineers and geoscientists of BC, but I wanted you guys to see what's important to Kanaka Bar is on the left. There are 6 physiological foundations of life, right? Air, water, food, shelter, energy, and communication. And if I had a little bit more time, even an hour isn't enough, I would have been grinding you guys through the correct order. But what you look at this, in the middle is a climate change cycle. What you do to the land is known as impacts. Impacts produce cumulative effects. Cumulative effects are producing global warming, and global warming is producing extreme weather events, and it's growing in frequency, duration, intensity. It's getting really scary. So as Greta said the other day, I think she was presenting to President Biden, and her final words was choose wisely, make good choices. Do you want to be in a reactive mode to all the shitstorm that's coming? Or do you want to be in a proactive mode where you're ready with awareness, with data, with mitigation and adaptation, with a plan, with actual on the ground effort? I'm going to read you guys a short quote from our summer plan that is online, and it's on page 7 or page 5. It says, a need to rethink our future has been identified. The key to real change, however, is on the ground, meaningful and tangible action. It's not enough to talk about climate change. It's not enough to have conversations. You need to be doing stuff now. Change your impacts, change the cycle, change your life. All right. Lily says, we want a little bit more about Chief Patrick. Oh, Jesus, I have no idea. So let me just put you, this is the house I grew up with. I lived here until 1983, from 1965 to 1983. I didn't have running water. I had a toilet down the hill, and I didn't have electricity. But you know what? I had 17 other people who loved me. And what else do you say? The roof didn't leak, but it was bloody cold in the winter and bloody hot in the winter because there was no insulation in the house either. So that's my house. And when I was 18 years old, you know what happened? I was down at Main and Hastings eating a T-bone steak. And I was reading a paper, and it said, the lights of the big red W shine down on Skid Row. Do you know what it's like to be 18 years old to find out you're in the bad part of town? Then another epiphany hits. Oh my God, if I'm in the bad part of the town with all my cousins and my uncles and my aunties and stuff, we may be the impoverished Indians I'm looking for. I had no idea I was an impoverished Indian until I was 18. Because remember, this house and my family and my nation lands and my resources gave me everything I needed to live. I didn't need electricity. I didn't need running water. We farmed the land. We lived. We went to town once a month to buy sweets. My grandmother loved bean cake. I couldn't eat it. That stuff was black. It had a little cake on the outside. So this is me. This is my family. My great-grandfather Palutkin signed a couple of documents in 1910, 1911 and testified in a royal commission. That's all online for those people who want to see it. I'm named after my great uncle Jimmy White, his name is Kanaka, but he was known Christian-wise by Jimmy White. So, and I wanted to go down and just say that in the last 2 bullet points on the right is, why does Chief Patrick get up in the morning? Why does he come to work? Why does he work at night? Why does he work at on weekends? Well, I have 20.6 reasons. Don't ask me to name my grandchildren in the correct order, but I can at least name my kids. So that's my kids, and that's my gift. Point 6. I call him Cinco Cinco because I was 55 when my youngest gave me a pair of socks at Christmas time, right? And I said, what the hell is that? I have my 15th grandchild coming. I'm just saying, Cinco Cinco, 55. That's how old I was when I found out I was going to be grandfather times 15. That is why I get up. That is why I come to work. And that is why I am who I am. Because I have children and grandchildren. And it is my responsibility as a father, as a grandfather, and as a cookbee to ensure that they have the same as, if not more, opportunity than I do today. Now, that's my grandmother. That's my oldest daughter, Julia. That is my middle dollar, Mary Jo. So my grandmother and I went everywhere. And when I mean by everywhere, I mean it. We didn't drive, we walked. Now everybody wants an F-350. What the hell? Walk. It worked for 8,000 years. If you don't want to walk, take a canoe, right? Throw something on your dog and you're good to go, right? But with contact comes change. And of course, there's people like to have the good stuff. Look at what sure things that she's spoke to go on the right. My grandmother didn't speak a lot, but when she did, you listened. She took me to meet Lily Duncan and Hazel Earl and Annie York and the Barney and Shackley. Each one of them told me things. So what I'm presenting to you is not just what I've read, of what I've experienced on the land. What I'm telling you is what people have told me. Their grandparents told them that their grandparents told them. So my information and my sharings come from pre-contact times. I just presented somewhat differently and in English. So When you look at my grandmother, there she is there, and I'm very fortunate to have this picture. I don't have a lot of pictures of my family, but when I do, I'm able to, just take little snapshots like this. So this is my mom. So same scenario. My mom took me everywhere. She needed to go to Union of BC Indian Chiefs meeting, I drove her. She needed to go to AFNBC meeting, I drove her. And through a process, which I like to call osmosis, I learned. I put my ass in a chair and learned stuff, not just from my elders, but and from my grandparents and from my mom, but also an incredible amount of experience and knowledge came from the leaders who were sitting. As we struggle with the impacts of colonization, trying to get recognition, trying to find a path forward, look to my mom's expressions and teachings there. Then, of course, there's also your leadership. So this is Chief James Frank. Now, he doesn't know when he became chief, and neither do we, but he became chief until May of 2015 when I succeeded him in the band's first election in what, 40 years? Did you guys know that we face recall here at Kanaka Bar every 30 days? I don't have a 2-year term or a 4-year term. Every 30 days, I must be given a mandate by my membership for another 30 days. Our governance structure is not Indian Act based. It is not Constitution Act based. It is the way we govern ourselves. We don't suffer fools. I am chief until I die, resign, or they throw my ass out of the office, and I have a 30-day mandate. So here's some of his sayings. So think about me. I'm sitting there. This is my chief in the middle. He's sitting there going, oh, geez, life's pretty tough. We should probably do something about it. And we did. Right? But now, on top of another stuff here is, I want to remind you guys here is that despite the learnings that can come from leadership, do not discount education. I grew up reading used encyclopedias by candlelight. I had 4 sets of encyclopedias that I read. It exposed me to the incredible dearth and knowledge of the world. So I knew about hydro, I knew about solar, I knew about wind power. I could name all the species of the dogs and cats and horses. It's incredible what's in an encyclopedia. Now, does anybody even have one anymore? Or do we just go to the internet? Lily asked me, well, how did things change? And I said, well, look to Chief Dan George's expression, learn their language and learn their laws and work with them. And if not, hit them over the head with their good old stuff. We don't assert Indigenous rights and titles here at Kanaka Bar. We implement them. But I digress because I'm sure there's a few federal and provincial people on that thing. I'm not too sure, so I'll say, Calder is what changed. I was 8. Up till 1972, we Indigenous peoples of Canada, we are an inconvenient Indian, a pimple on colonial government's ass. And I'm telling you, no matter what was happening, they did not care. But Calder changed everything. The highest court of Canada recognized Indigenous people and their title and their rights without definition. And on 1973, that decision came out at 10:37 a.m. And my grandmother looked up, but she never looked down again 1 minute later, as did my mom. Calder changed everything. It took a little while for other things to change. Our residential school didn't close till 1976, right? 1978, Chief James Frank started asking, what can we do to become a self-sufficient, sustainable, vibrant community again? So he set the ball in motion. I graduated, I went to college, I went to university. And of course, I don't remember when I graduated from university, so I actually went back down to UBC. Sarah, you should check it out sometime. There's this picture. The librarian had to say, well, I graduated, but I don't remember. Things are important at life. And when you graduated from high school, college, and university, apparently isn't important. I have a law degree. I practiced law for 8 years. That's so yesterday. What matters is today and tomorrow. Oh, hi, everybody. Just do it. Let's steal Nike here. All right. Another way to learn about what it is, walk the land, see, listen, touch, learn. If you're sitting downstairs playing Overwatch, Fortnite, or Minecraft, you're not experiencing the gifts that the Creator gave you, life and choice. It's not a choice to game out 7 days of the week for 12 hours. That's avoidance. I'm just saying. Right? Get out. The picture on the left, that's me and Dory. Dory, say wait. Hi. So Dory's over there. So Dory and I took the kids up. This is 6 o'clock in the morning. We walked up to the top of Kanaka Mountain. Don't you tell me that my kids don't want to do things. That's all they want to do. They'll game out at nights. So get out on the land, walk the land, experience the land, feel the land, because it's that which sustains you. All right. So, of course, the kids want to learn other stuff. So this is Rick. He's now retired. He has a bad back, but he was GPSing and stuff like this. The kids, we have a lot of kids with excavator certificates. We have a lot of kids with their forest fire hazard reductions. Every year we put on a forest fire treatment course. So if they have to, kids can go out and fight fires, but more importantly, they can protect the community. Smokey the Bear showed up one day, and that was just funny right there. All right. So in addition to all this stuff, so mindful of time, I know what slide I'm on yet. It doesn't have a count, but I'm going to get through my slides. What's really important here, though, is that in 1978, Chief James Frank said we needed to do something, but we weren't able to advance anything until 1990. And so what we did here is we looked at what was going on all around us. We saw what was working. Forestry is not going to work for us. Mining isn't going to work for us. Agriculture is not going to work for us. Tourism is not going to work for us. So what do we find? Turns out that our ancestors chose a place that had wind, sun, and water. Gee, remember those encyclopedias? Isn't there such things as solar, wind towers, and hydro projects? So in 1990, Chief James Frank paid $10,000 to the provincial government for a water license application. Now that's just funny. Indigenous people applying to the colonial government for a water license. Well, we now own 87% of the water licenses in my nation's territory, my traditional territory. Don't tell the rest of Indigenous people about that. You can bitch, whine, and complain about the lack of water, or you can go out and snap up the water licenses. It's just a unique way of looking at it, because use their language and their laws. He who has the water license has the power of self-determination. So long story short, bada bing, bada boom, 45, I don't remember how long it was, but we'll call it 43 years of new relationships. With the hydro project came into construction in 2014, and we learned a lot during the first one. Now, Chief James Frank also used to say, if you're not engaged, how you can change the future. I talk about UBC, AFN, Nlaka'pamux Nation. But I want you guys to look, when you get a chance, have a watch of that video. I presented this video up in Yukon at BC AFN. It's just saying, please don't disregard Indigenous peoples. We know what needs to be done, but we need to have the federal and provincial governments have the power to make the decisions. We are not the colonial government. We can be informants. So this is John Horgan. John Horgan showed up at Kanaka Bar in 2012, says, hey, what you guys doing? Oh, we're just taking care of business, man. Backman Turner Overdrive and Elvis Presley right there for you. So he brought up Scott Fraser, he had Harry Lally, there's a couple other people. That's Harold Joe on the right. When you get back on the land, things change. People start coming. If you want your member of parliament here, do something. You want your MLA here, do something. I'm just saying, but you need to be doing something. Okay. So not only we're products, there's a saying here, product of your socioeconomic environment. Well, one thing we did was we got rid of the snake oil salesman. I don't need you. My grandmother bought 3 vacuum cleaners. Remember, we didn't have power, but we owned 3 electric vacuum cleaners. We're not very assertive as a people, right? We'll say things to get people, oh, sure, I'll buy a vacuum cleaner. Yes, we had 2 blenders. I still laugh to this day. We always seem to be taking advantage of. So we decided to change it. So this is a listing of people. I noticed now that Arrowstone is not listed. They're the archaeologists we work with. We brought to the committee good people. We asked for professionalism, we asked for objectivity, but most importantly, we asked them to share with elders, my generation, and our youth. That's mentoring, that's capacity development. Bring good people to your community. New relationships. So because of the big one and this newfound vote, so this is, oh, look on the top right-hand corner. Is anybody from tech on the line? I don't know if I need permission to write or to snip Facebook screens, but these are 4 people from tech I was on the line with for 2 hours and 17 minutes and 18 seconds yesterday. They're good listeners, right? So there's a quid pro quo. They want to expand the mine life operations of HVC. We said we're all on side, but let's use an opportunity to make sure we're looking at through the lens of climate change, that we're actively in conversation in the decommissioning and deactivation plans, so that we include harm reduction and harm reversal into HVC's current operations, its expansion operation. I'm just saying is, if somebody, one of these guys show up, CPR, CNR, highways, mining, hydro, forestry companies, it's always the same. It's the ask protocol. Tell me what you're doing. Have you considered this? Have you doing this? And if the land and resource can sustain it, we're going to say yes, but here are the conditions. Remember Article 32 of DRIPA? You must get consent to First Nations. And then what's the other one? TRCC, Article 92, please implement. So even corporations have a sort of semi responsibility to get consent. We've only said no once, and that's the TMX. But I shall digress. If you guys want it, there's a video and there's a story about why we said no to TMX online. Engagement. So if you're going to have awareness, remember that long list of stuff that I had up here? What do your membership think? What do your residents think? I have an idea. Ask them. They're kind of important. I don't think that I'm lying about that. So we meet monthly. Remember that third Thursday? I do it on third Thursdays. I do a 30-day look back and a 30-day look forward. The biannual written reports is a 6-month look back, 6-month look forward, right? I just read you from page 5. We do monthly newsletters, all this sort of stuff. But now, as a result of COVID-19, guess what? I'm getting more people participating. Why? Because we can virtual. We used to gather like this, but now people can just stay at home, force the kids to get off a fortnight and participate in a band meeting. It's groovy. I'm getting now engagement from New Brunswick, from Houston, from Alaska. My membership reside all over the place. And the fact that they reside all over the place makes no difference to me. They're still my membership. And I need to hear from them. So listen to your membership, right? Look at all the things. And I didn't know how to, I didn't steal a lot of the membership clips from the Zoom meetings. I was desperately looking, but I was so busy just listening, I forgot to take Zoom clips. But my membership participate in Zoom meetings now. There's only 10 members who do not have a computer, and that's not bad. So all again is look at these images. Listen to your membership. I am not a God. I may be a father and a grandfather, but I have been given a mandate for my future generations, and that mandate is confirmed by my membership, and because we do it with our youth and for our youth. Okay? This is what they said. There we go. We have a climate change assessment and adaptation plan. Oh, by the way, we just inked it. The community has given me a 5-year medium-term plan called the Community Resiliency Plan, not an economic development plan. They've given me 140 tasks to roll out in the next 5 years and in the order of priority. You might want to look at our Community Resiliency Plan. It may not be applicable to you, but it breaks our forward path looking into 7 planning areas. And it's all online. So I have a saying, made it Kanaka, for Kanaka, by Kanaka. And if you want it, just go online and right click and steal. It works. I steal stuff off the internet all the time and just slap a Kanaka flag on it, right? I'm just saying is you can be crazy insane about who you are today and this incredible opportunity that's coming tomorrow. And, or you can be like Lily and give me an opportunity to yak for 1 hour and take questions for half. Again, thank you for that kind introduction, Lily. All right, and if you don't believe Kanaka Bar, this is off the Province of British Columbia's website. By 2050, this is what they've identified, 15 huge impact areas. You should probably be getting ready for it because it really sucks to be building a reservoir, a water line, and a hydrant while your house is burning. That's what proactivity is. Do it now before you're in response mode because you can't do it when you're in response mode. Listen to me, we have about 4 years left to make the significant proactive investments in our tomorrow because the extreme weather events are coming. And like in CBC a couple of weeks ago, I said it, don't worry about what's happening anywhere else, look out your window. All right, so what are these impacts? This is a dirge, just call it a funeral dirge. It's scary, look what's coming. If you're not experiencing it, you are cold, you are impassionate. The powerlessness, apathy, despair, desperation, fear, anger, protest, violence. This is what climate change is bringing, and you're seeing part of it with the pandemic response. Not everybody believes in climate change. Not everybody believes in the pandemic. What do you believe? Choose wisely. gift of life, power, and choice. It is up to you as an individuals and your family and your community and your regions to decide what's in your best interests. We are blessed with a strong government in Victoria and a strong government in Ottawa, but they've kind of lost their way. I'll give you an example. Again, I shouldn't bash on people. You can't declare a climate change emergency on a Monday and approve a pipeline on a Tuesday. It's called hypocrisy. But I won't name names, Minister McKenna. Oops. Anyway, I digress, as I'm known to do. Remember that one line where I said I'll try to stay on point? As long as you guys know, whatever you're experiencing will worsen. If you have a plan and you start implementing that plan, you'll be okay. The physical impacts. So that's the psychological side. Here's the physical. Look out your door. Kanaka Bar is already Canada's hotspot. We're forecasting a 6-degree change in our temperature. So we're going to go from about 38 to 44 degrees Celsius, but Lytton, who hits 49, will be hitting 55 degrees Celsius in less than 40 years. I hope they have for the plan for the heat, for the drought and the desertification. That is a municipality and the surrounding Indigenous communities. Look to this list. Which one applies to your community? Which one applies to your family? What is the priority? What do you protect yourself against? What do you make the proactive investments in? Because those risks produce these consequences: air quality, water shortages, price increases, you name it. It's a simple list. This took me maybe 8 to 10 minutes to just bang out, because it's what we're living with right now. We've advanced significant food self-sufficiency goals at Kanaka Bar, and the heat and the air quality is causing my field crops to struggle and fail. They're not getting enough heat. Then when the heat does get here, it gets crisp. All right, significant point. If you don't have a weather station, you should. If you don't have water gauging stations, you should. Remember, if you're going to have a climate change adaptation and transition adaptation and implementation plan, you need site-specific data. We have our own air quality monitors. We have our own weather stations. We gauge our own water. I'm not relying on Chilliwack or Vancouver or Kamloops data. I'm relying on mine, because that's what you need. So if you don't have this, then you should probably think about getting one, right? There's the air quality monitor. There's the 3 weather stations. It produces the coolest data. They work 24/7, 365 year round. The weather stations, they're solar powered with battery storage. So don't tell me I got to put a weather station up because I got no electricity. Jesus, look at solar and battery, right? Look at the generator. This is the data that the kids, when the kids work, the first thing they do is, oh, Chief's an idiot, doesn't know how to assess data. Can one of you smart whippersnappers go in and tell me what the weather air quality was like? So this is the air quality. If it gets high, it's bad, right? This is the wind speed. What happens is I'm not the one who's going to read this. I know when wind blows a trampoline down the road, I've seen it. Now, I guess I could make a note of that day and check how my air gauging stuff's got it. But I not necessarily need to know that yet. We're tracking the data since operations, and it's getting windier, and then there's no wind at all. Right? This is my temperature. Now, this is the difference between Kanaka Bar and Lytton. Kanaka Bar is any given day 6 degrees cooler than Lytton. So why? Because Lytton has a weather station. Well, you can go onto my website, by the way. The Weather Network steals my weather data. Just, it's funny right there. So we compare our weather to Lytton, 18 kilometers to the north, and we found that we are cooler than they are. Right? This is the temperature difference between my 3 weather stations. Again, when the kids start this summer, I will ask them to put in the last year's data. And you'll find here that Upper Kanaka is cooler than Middle Kanaka, which is cooler than Lower Kanaka. Lower Kanaka is actually very hot. So most of we live a little bit higher up to avoid the summer heat. So again, this is the type of data. Remember, science is important. Sometimes the chief sounds like he's full of crap. Well, then you hit him over the head with the science. If you can't dazzle him with bullshit, hit him over the head with the science. Science is never wrong, right? Now, Kanaka Bar and water. You all know this expression, Kanaka Bar, water is life. Water provides drinking, irrigation, fire protection, energy production. We can generate enough water for the rest of the region. And plus you need water for an economy. 6 reasons why you should have water gauging stations. Oh no, a double picture. I knew I was going to do that at some point in time. So that's Earthwalker and Dominique, right? They designed it, they installed it, they download the data, and then they produce those data steps. Earthwalker is now working over in Enderby, and Dominique is now a father, and he's kind of stay home right now. But you know what? They're going to come back. I know they will, because they like doing stuff like this. It sure beats working at Tim Hortons and Walmart's, right? Give the kids their land. Okay? May 21st, we're now doubling our stored water. So the reservoir we're putting in is 256 cubic meters, which will store an additional 68,000 gallons of water. That's the doubling of our water reservoir. But at the same time, where it's being built, there is a place to beaver pond. There's another one to the north, there's another one to the west, and there's another one to the southwest. So within 5 years, I can go from 68,000 gallons of water storage to 500,000 gallons. I'm just saying, if you got a water problem and then you're forecasting drought, maybe store it. Because the issue for Canada and BC isn't scarcity, it's too much water in the spring and fall, followed by none in the winter and summer. We're going to get double droughts. Store water, use it when you need it. If I run out of water, I can then pump this into the treatment plant that's above it. That's the treatment plant. So these are reservoirs that we're putting in. It's just a basic concept. Store water for when you need it. Kanaka water. So again, I've got to move this thing over. We had a huge rain event. This is the first time in 8,000 years the creeks carried debris down. We have a base flow of water, and our intakes got full of rock. It never happened before. Will it happen again? Yeah, we're estimating about 4 times a year. So we're moving away from fancy reservoirs and intakes to just dollar store intakes. So if this wall of water hits it, it's wiped out. And when the freshet power goes away, we just put in another dollar store intake. We're investing in reservoirs and water lines that are outside of riparian zones so that they're not at risk of damage, right? Look at that list again. This is the list that was created by our students. The first thing water is important for is ecosystem health. Is there enough for the plants? Is there enough for the animals? There's enough for the birds. Is there enough for the fish? Oh, I'm gonna move this again. Oh man, maybe I'll just put it there. So again, water precipitation. I'm gonna be monitoring this really clear because normally we would get rain in the summer. And I'm noticing, you see the trend? Our water is going down all across the board. So I'm getting really worried about how much rain we're getting. Then of course you get overhit with too much rain. So what is this one? This is Kanaka Bar's rain compared to Lytton. Remember, Kanaka Bar is different. We get more rain than Lytton. So if anybody should be worried about drought, it should be the Lytton people, okay? I love this. This is the one that shows the base flows. So my grandmother said, we've never been without water at Kanaka Bar. And one of the sadnesses that I have right now, so the hydrologist will tell you there's a base flow in here. My grandmother wasn't dealing with climate change, and neither was my mother. And in many ways, their upbringings, that's the importance of the science. There was an assumption by my grandparents and my parents that we'll always have water. It is a dangerous assumption. Do not make the assumption you will have water, because without water, you can't have those 6 things. Or have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Without water, you can't have that. So do not, if you're going to have a plan, get your priority onto water. But good luck with that. All right, so where was I? Now let's look at the Fraser River. Now I know that DFO knows well aware about this. So we've got the Fraser River. It's done, it's toast, it's kaput. I want to tell you that everybody can say, oh, we can save the Fraser River. Can we? It took 150 years and it is now becoming a toxic environment. We can't drink it, we can't swim in it. Can we save it? I don't know. I'll tell you that, at least be a little optimism, but I can tell you it's killing the fish. Salmon is life. Everything's spores at Kanaka Bar. Remember, we didn't have to move anywhere. The buffalo came to us. The salmon passed by my villages for 10 months of the year. And now, where are they? They're done. DFO on February 9th announced the forecast for this year, and it just bleak. When you start talking about steelhead in 200, sockeye in less than 40,000, how are these species supposed to reproduce so that they come back? So pink's cycle is 2 years, sockeye is 4, springs or chinook are 5. If the numbers only see 30 or 40 making the spawning channels, guess what? We already know at Kanaka Bar that by 2023, extirpational level events will occur. That means there are no more migratory species in the Fraser River. They will still exist in Skeena and Alaska and maybe down in the Columbia River. What happened? Us, we did. We happened. So what we have now is, so what are we going to do? I have an idea. How about introducing a new term to the participants? It's called self-determination. If Mother Nature, we screwed Mother Nature, how about we just raise our own fish? So we're clearing the land as we speak. There's an image from Google. Here is the plan. And I don't have all the images here. So we brought in people to flatten the land and prepare for aquaculture. For $150,000, we'll be producing 200 pounds of fresh fish protein a week. In the same process, scaling it up. And if that's not enough, then we'll put another tub in. If that's not enough, we'll put another tub in. We have enough land, water, people, and other resources to produce enough fish to feed my community today and tomorrow and make available surplus for the region. Everybody knows and wants my stuen because I'm the only person producing stuen. I want every Indigenous community, every municipality, every corporation to start investing in aquaculture. We need to make our own food. And that's just that story. Okay? But food security and food sovereignty and self-determination, key. Remember, air, water, food. So we're now in the physiological foundations, we're now in food. Food isn't just hunting, fishing, and gathering. Look at the system. And every one of those systems are being impacted by the pandemic and, of course, climate change. You'll see the waterfall as we go. Grow your own, sales versus relief. I just want to point on the bottom left-hand corner that one of the saddest parts that's coming is we can't do humanitarian relief. If our house is burning, how am I supposed to save Vancouver, Guatemala, or the Mekong Delta? One of the things that Kanaka Bar are sad over is that we're going to be unable to provide humanitarian relief to people who need it. We can only create a location where if you can get here, we'll support you. We just do not have the resources to save the world. And I know there's going to be problems with that. But all I'm just saying here is, at the end of the day, if you have air, water, food, you'll be okay. Okay? So this is us. So we've sat down here and we're planting, we're just giving her. We have 76 different species of introduced stuff. We're growing olives, we're growing kumquats. You name it, we're growing it. Holy Jesus, I'm just telling you. Right? Broccoli and cauliflower. Who knew that was going to grow at Kanaka Bar? I grew up, we grow potatoes, carrots, and tomatoes and corn. So we've introduced 76 new species. And the one that's really funny is that we're also now growing our own traditional foods. So what we call stuckum is also known as Saskatoon bushes. They are being really hammered by climate change. So we're actually planting and irrigating Saskatoon bushes so that we can continue to harvest our traditional foods, because the natural systems are not able to transition and adapt. As human beings, we can. So if you have valued traditional foods, you better figure out how to start growing it, because that's one of the things that will be disappearing. It's called an ecosystem shift. Okay? Now, it's really funny because one of the plus sides of being Kanaka Bars, we harvest raspberries and strawberries until November of each year now. In less than 3 years, we produce enough raspberries and strawberries already to feed the entire community, and we jam it and we sell it at our store. But not only that, what I told you, that one of the things, we have turkeys, chickens. By the way, does anybody remember the story about Chewbacca the alpaca? Okay, I wanted to bring an alpaca, and turns out I couldn't get one. So Cusco is showing up on Saturday. So Cusco is a llama. So a llama is a herd animal. Before I bring in pigs and turkeys and rabbits and goats, I needed to have a natural protector. They're in pastured lands. That means cougars, bobcats, bears, owls, eagles. We're trying to get them. Well, a llama is a herd protector. They will attack a predator. So we're bringing in the llama this Saturday to get him acclimatized to the region, and then we'll bring in his friends. So that's the meat process. Now, this is our greenhouse in the winter. This is the greenhouse we're just putting up now because we're expanding it to 300,000 square foot greenhouses. But more importantly, I want to introduce you to a concept called SIA. So by the end of this summer, we'll have repurposed shipping containers in terms of the controlled environment agriculture. So what we're going to do is we control the heat, the moisture, and the light to produce tomatoes 5 times a year, to produce cucumbers 5 times a year. Because remember, if it's too hot, your field crops will fail. If it's too cold, your field crops will fail. Greenhouses blow away in a windstorm. I have an idea. Buy a shipping container and slap a grow up into it. Woo! That's what SIA is. And we'll, of course, what we've done and how will be put online. And hopefully by the end of September, you'll be able to see our first SIAs. Okay? Kanaka Bar and Shelter, air, water, food, shelter. Well, there's not a lot we can do about the infrastructure that was constructed, but I want to introduce you. We basically put 3 videos online about how to bring your house up to code, right? So we put a lot of videos online. That's Matthew over here. Matthew's now left. He's working on the pipeline. So I'm just saying, there's just some funny right there, right? So Matthew, of course, we invested a lot of time in Matthew as a youth, but he takes opportunities. He can work for me at $15 an hour or go get whatever. Matthew is young. Let him go out and learn how the world works. So in the housing market, have a look at it. Now, don't tell anybody else, but we have 100% rent collection. You might want to ask me how we did it someday, but that'll be before the question. So our band has 100% rent collection, and we put it all into maintenance. The renovations are paid by the membership. Our band's membership have no ownership. I don't know how it exists everywhere else, but we don't own our houses. All of the houses are community assets, and we rent them to the membership. If they pay, they can stay. If they don't pay, they can leave. As a result, that's how you get 100% rent, and it's that generates the rent is enough to pay for 2 full-time maintenance workers. All right, now the new stuff. So we built this 10-plex over here, and of course you see the solar on it, and we've got 24 more units coming. We should be, I think we'll be applying for the building permits. So we're putting in new housing. Can you imagine 24 more units generating more rent? Oh man, that's more work. Oh, so who cares about work in Kamloops and Vancouver if there's more work here than we have members? Okay, Kanaka Energy. So we talked about energy. Now, 2 legs and a heartbeat worked for me as a kid, as did fire, but not everybody wants to go back to that really old technology. So turns out that over time we were introduced to bicycles and cars and fossil fuels and of course electricity. Well, if we need energy to live, why don't produce it? So we have 12 operating solar projects at this time. We have at least 1, 2 more coming in the very near future. And I'm not talking small anymore. We started small and we scale up. That's how Kanaka Bar rolls. If the wind knocks out BC Hydro's power lines, who cares? If there's a forest fire and knocks out BC Hydro's power lines, who cares? If there's a landslide, if there's an avalanche, who cares? We care because we know that a lot of people invested in resiliency, which is self-generation of the energy that you need to live. Electricity is needed in the winter to keep your house warm. Electricity is needed in the summer to keep your house cool. And if the grid goes down, how are you going to live? I'll tell you, very uncomfortably, except at Kanaka Bar, where we're going to be watching TV going, oh God, the power's out in Boston Bar again. No, it sucks to be them. But I'm just kidding. I'm not saying. It's just Boston Bar is aware of it. Every one of our communities, regardless of where they are, has wind, sun, water. And I can only hope that they would take the time to understand and flesh out renewable energy, power production, and battery storage so that if the power goes out, they'll be okay. Okay, so this is, of course, that's a pillar unit, that's a tracker unit, and that is a ground unit. And I saw a couple of pictures of house. Now that tracker, that's on a video, that follows the sun. It's the #1 solar producer because it tracks the sun. Everything else is static. But you know what? When you listen to the story, you can pay BC Hydro for your hydro bill. Let's say it's $200 last month. Kanaka's was zero. $14,000 we put in solar to get our hydro bills to zero. That's it. The business case takes 7 to 8, maybe 7 to 14 years to pay off, but the life expectancy in solar is 30 or 40 years. Would you like to pay your hydro company for the next 30 years, or would you like to pay them zero? You still have to pay the connect fee. That's $10. So is there a business case for energy management? It's online, and I referenced it earlier. I just see right there. Really spells it out. If you really want to get granular on renewable energy, go look up that one there. I think I did it for Candu. All right, what else we got? Oh, Kanaka communications, smoke signals, landlines, and faxes. So yesterday, remember, not everybody wants to go back to living in holes in the grounds and have flame. Not everybody wants to go back to landlines. Does anybody still have a fax machine? Huh. Anyway, I digress, as I'm known to do. Remember, I made a commitment to stay on point, but the point is here is, for some gosh-forsaken reason, talking and walking, my membership insists on having Facebook and TikTok. I'm not on Facebook, just so you guys know, and I'm still scratching my head over TikTok. I have no idea what you can learn in 8 seconds. But anyway, I'll figure out a way. So we have now created a bit of a Facebook bulletin board. I'm not on it, but our membership are engaged. But most importantly here is, if you're going to have a life and a lifestyle and you need connectivity, don't rely on third parties. We are dependent on TELUS. They are the main supplier. So we've engaged TELUS to get into cell tower, and we've engaged TELUS to give us access to their fiber optics. ComCom is a local internet installer and all that good stuff. LitNet is their internet service provider. By working together, remember the quid pro quo in new relationships, I know that we will guarantee myself and my children and grandchildren uninterrupted cell service and Wi-Fi regardless of the weather. Kanaka youth. So Lily introduced at the very beginning the importance of youth. I am not kidding. The youth, they design it, they install it, they operate it, it's theirs. We empower our youth. Remember, I'm only here for a short period of time. I'm 55. Why would I sit down there and do what I needed to do? Give the keys to the future to your children. Empower them. They design it, they operate it, they install it across all of those areas. Not all of them stay, some of them leave. That's a success story. When you give your youth the tools to be successful at your home community, they will be successful in Kamloops and in Williams Lake and in Kelowna and in Chilliwack and in Vancouver. Every person we've invested in winds up leaving. We currently have 3 band members in construction in Vancouver. Do I miss them? Absolutely. Because I don't want to climb up on the roof and fix that bloody roof thing. I will, but I'd rather have the kids. So at the end of the day, please watch the video that I've got linked here, because this is about the youth, the humor that they have. Every year we bring in the youth all summer long, and we hope they'll stay longer. But they're youths, you know, they like to go out and place. Okay, so drag them out and about, you know, share stories, talk about stuff, put them on the land. Oh God, there's Earthwalker 3 times in the same picture. Earthwalker and Dominic, you guys must have really impacted me. It's because I have so many pictures, I started losing. But give the youth the tools, support them, mentor them. It's their future, empower them. Okay. Now, on this article here on the right, I was speaking in last year in front of 120 students. They broke it into 5 classroom settings, and we asked them sort of stuff. And the number one thing that came up, and it really hurt me, is that the youth are of the view that the world has given up. And I refuse to accept that. I was raised to believe that what you say or do matters. Your future is not cut in stone. If you're not happy with the status quo, then change it. Change the people you meet. Change your lifestyle. Change your living thing. So but at the end of the day, that was a whiteboard that I was just throwing stuff up as it presented to 5 separate kids. At the end of the day, climate change is real. Look at what I've listed here. We're getting ready. I'm sharing today so that hopefully that you guys, the participants, will be motivated. You'll grind down on the information. I'm known as information overload machine gun style. Have I even took a sip of coffee? Here, let me take a moment. Guys, it's incredible. Invest in water, food, shelter, and energy so that you will have a future tomorrow. That's basically the message. So when we talk about the question, what is resiliency? So here's the one I was talking about, okay? Is this resiliency? So we have a plan to put this entire area, this polygon, into food and energy and other sorts of development. I got the keys for my building on May 7th, 6 days ago. We now have the very first building that is grid connected, but if anything goes wrong, that's where you go. I don't have my housing grid connect or backed up yet, but if Granny needs an air purifier, get to this building. If Granny needs to be cooled off, get to this building. If you need to cook dinner, get to this building. It is a community building by day, an emergency operations center during an emergency. We liked it so much, let's do another. Same scenario down in Lower Kanaka, those 24 units that are coming. Now this is a fully self-sufficient subdivision. We're putting in megawatts, lots of wattages. So we're putting in batteries, we're putting in wind towers, we're putting in hydro project. So that's still grid connected. But if the power goes off, 24 more units and you'll have a community amenities building. We'll still have power. I hope that these resiliency centers that we talk about are understood and they take off across Canada. We've been advocating with Canada and others that they should have these about every 100 kilometers so that you minimize the risk. I mean, for example, during an emergency, why do I have to relocate to Kamloops? Why don't I just relocate to the building next door? It's the safest place to be, okay? So the bus stop, rest stop. So on the top right-hand corner, I talked about building the Fraser Canyon Resiliency Hub. This is important. I'm not here just to save my children and grandchildren. I'm not a savior. I'm here to give them an opportunity to have a quality of life. But there are many visitors that come to Kanaka Bar, pass by Kanaka Bar. In an emergency, where are they going to go? So we're designing and we're building on Highway 1, 8 electric vehicle charging stations because we think electrification is going to take off and people have electric vehicles. We're not going to sell gas. Already, we don't sell cigarettes and we don't sell alcohol at Kanaka Bar. If you want that, go to town. We don't need money to live. We want people to have the essentials, the needs that they need to live, and that's what we're doing. So we're providing that. If you want something else, that's a want. You need to go get that elsewhere. But the most important thing here is why not have a location large enough that in an emergency, the public can be safe too. So I don't think I put it on here, but on our website, you'll find the feasibility report. This is about a $6 million build, and we should have, best case scenarios with third-party support. We should be able to get it up and running within the next 2 years. Without third-party support, it could take us anywhere from 5 to 6 years. It takes time to secure the financing to do this project. So we're at 11 o'clock because Lily took 3 minutes. I think I've got about 2 or 3 slides left. So what happens if Kanaka Bar is absolutely bonkers and wrong and we made Kanaka Bar a better place to live for nothing? Can you imagine that? All the stuff I've talked about, you do it and we're wrong. All those negative Nellies, that 1% who influenced people like presidents and premiers and prime ministers. What happens if climate change wasn't real? And we guaranteed our children a future for nothing. How can you go wrong? That's all I'm saying is, if Kanaka Bar can do it, so can you. But you are not powerless. Everything you say or do matters. Do not think for 1 second that the Facebook negative Nellies or the trolls and all those people out there can determine your future. The Creator gave you the gift of life. Choose wisely. I gave you a long list of things that you can go. That's the easy, harder way. If you want to sit down, bury your head in the sand, oh, geez, I feel for you. I refuse to. In 1973, at 10:37 a.m. on January 31st, life changed for my people. And we've been on the self-determining, self-sufficient, self-empowerment path. When Chief James Frank retired, he said, first of all, he's one of the 10 people that doesn't know how to use a cell phone and a computer. He's been overwhelmed with the demands in his time. He currently sits down about every 30 days. You'll see him drive around the reserve. and he goes back home. He's doing fine. It became overwhelming. The success to dealing with all the pressures that are coming is find your team, find your supports, advocate, talk to your council, talk to your leadership, talk to your mayor, talk to your councillor, get a hold of your MLA, get a hold of your MP. If we don't sit there and advocate that climate change is real and we need a plan and a real plan and a strategy, it's really important. You have the power to change your future. And that's something that I was raised to believe. And that's what I'm reaffirming with you if you can. Make no mistake, you can have an incredible life. There is an environment coming, but there's also an economy. We will have adequate air, water, food, shelter, energy, communications, and we will make available for the region the surplus. If they can get here, for example, all that water I talked about, we're planning to make it available for free on Highway 1. But the cup that says I survived with a conversation with the chief, that's $10. Thank you.